Hello everyone, welcome to the Environmental Studies Week 6. In this section we are going to study the carbon, nitrogen and sulfur cycles. This video will help you to understand the process and the significance of nitrogen cycle, carbon and sulfur cycles. This nitrogen is one of the most important element which is also important in terms of nutrient and required for the survival of all living organisms. It is necessary component for many of the biomolecules including DNA, proteins and chlorophyll and other components. If you look at the nature, it is one of the it is the abundant element which accounts for about 78% in nature. However, it is present as dinitrogen gas, that is N2. But because of its N2 nature, which has a triple bond, it is not easily breakable and it becomes a limiting factor for the primary productivity in many of the ecosystems. In the sense, the nitrogen is not easily breakable, and because of that nature, the plants and primary producers cannot use nitrogen for their normal metabolic processes. So only when this nitrogen is converted from dinitrogen gas into ammonia, it becomes available to the primary producers such as plants. Otherwise, it is not usable by the plants. Coming on to nitrogen fixation. The nitrogen fixation is a process where N2 is converted into ammonium or NH4. So whatever the bonds are holding together those two nitrogen atoms will be broken down, and those broken down individual nitrogens will get converted into ammonium. Certain organisms, that is bacteria like rhizobium, they can fix the nitrogen in the sense they convert the nitrogen into ammonium through their metabolic processes. Otherwise, which is a tough process to achieve. Apart from bacteria, the processes like lightning, the forest fires, and hot lava flows, they can also fix nitrogen to a certain extent, smaller extent, but significant enough that it can be used by the plants. The high energy events like lightning, it breaks the triple bonds of nitrogen molecules, thereby making individual nitrogen atoms available for chemical transformation. The nitrogen uptake, the NH4, that is ammonium, is taken up by the plants and producers, and they get converted into organic nitrogen. So the ammonium which is produced by the bacteria or the nitrogen fixing organisms or the processes is taken up by a host plant or any other soil organism, and they utilize the nitrogen in their metabolic processes, and they convert them into proteins, DNA or any other compounds. When the organisms which are near the top of the food chain, like human beings, when we eat, we take up the nitrogen that has already been fixed by the nitrogen fixing organism, and that's how the nitrogen enters the food chain of the higher up organisms. There is the next process which is called as nitrogen mineralization, that is the conversion of organic nitrogen into ammonium. Generally, what happens is the nitrogen, once it is incorporated into organic matter, it is often converted back to the inorganic nitrogen by a process called as mineralization, which is also called as decay or decaying process. So, during this decaying or decomposition process, a significant amount of nitrogen is which was contained within the dead organism will be converted back to ammonium. And once in the form of ammonium, the nitrogen is available for the use by the plants or for further transformation into nitrate through a process called as nitrification. So it is this nitrification which converts them into nitrates. The last process in the cycle is called as denitrification, that is NO3 to uh, dinitrogen. Or so through denitrification, the oxidized form of nitrogen such as nitrate and nitrite, NO3 and NO2, are converted back to dinitrogen, that is atmospheric nitrogen. So this denitrification is an anaerobic process that is carried out by the denitrifying bacteria, which would convert the nitrate into dinitrogen in the following sequence: NO3 to NO2 to NO and N2O into N2. So this is the sequence of events of conversion of NO3 into atmospheric nitrogen. And once it is converted into dinitrogen format, the nitrogen is usually reconverted into biologically unavailable because it is a gas and it rapidly gets lost into the atmosphere. So basically, once the NO3 gets converted into N2, it is in the form of a gas, and since it is in the form of a gas, it easily and rapidly lost to the atmosphere. So in this diagram, the entire set of events are summarized. So you have the red line indicating the human activities and the blue line indicating the natural activities. Whatever lines here, that will indicate the respective process. So the whole conversion, I mean nitrogen fixation, it getting back into the nature, the fixation of nitrogen using lightning and volcano, rain, all those things will bring the nitrogen into the usable format by the plants. And once it is usable or used by the plants, they will be getting into the food chain, and finally it gets back into the nature in the form of N2 again. The next cycle what we are going to look at is the carbon cycle. Carbon is again an important element, and it is required by almost all the organisms. You cannot find an organism without carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen, so to say. So, what are the major steps involved in the carbon cycle? So, the carbon which is present in the atmosphere will be absorbed by the plants for their photosynthesis. So, during the photosynthetic process, the carbon is utilized, which is present in the form of carbon dioxide, and they get chemically converted into carbohydrates. So the plants consumed by the animals, and carbon gets bioaccumulated in their bodies. So once the plants are able to synthesize their food materials, naturally they will be fed upon by the animals, and that's how the carbon gets into the body of the animals. And as these plants and animals eventually will die, and upon decomposition, the carbon is released back into the atmosphere. So it enters into the plant, it enters into the animal, and finally, when the animal and plant is dead, they undergo decomposition and it will eventually release back into the atmosphere. However, some of the carbon which is not released back into the atmosphere will eventually become fossil fuels. So these fossil fuels or coal or oil or whatever it is, they get trapped in the nature for a long period of time. And this is called as carbon sink, in the sense they will be deposited in the nature, but they will not recycle back into the nature so quickly. It will take thousands and thousands of years for such trapped carbon to come back into the mainstream of carbon cycle. That's why that formation of fossil fuels is also stated as carbon sink. So these fossil fuels are then used for man-made activities, which pumps more carbon back into the atmosphere. So that's how the whole cycle of carbon will take place in the nature. So in this diagrammatic representation, you can see the whole process. So first, it is the producers, there is a plant. They make use of sunlight, they synthesize the or fix the carbon into biomass by photosynthesis. It undergoes respiration, decomposition after deforestation, etc. And it also gets back into the aquatic biomass. And whatever carbon is present in the form of carbon dioxide in the ocean or water bodies, they get diffused into the environment and also comes back. And as I mentioned earlier, they also get trapped in the nature in the form of coal, oil, or gas. And this black spot or patch is also called as carbon sink. It will take a lot of time for it to come back to the mainstream of cycling. Next, let us move on to the sulfur cycle. Sulfur is released by the weathering of rocks. This is again also important element present in the nature or the human and other organisms. The sulfur comes into contact with the air and it gets converted into sulfates. And these sulfates are taken up by the plants and microbes and they are converted into organic forms. Just like the way what we saw in nitrogen cycle and carbon cycle, the sulfur also goes through a similar kind of phenomena in the sense the sulfates which are taken up by the plants and microbes, they will be converted into organic format. So inorganic to organic format. So the organic form of sulfur is then consumed by the animals through their food, and thus the sulfur gets into the food chain. So from the primary position, it gets converted into organic sulfur, and from the organic sulfur, it gets into the food chain through the consumption by the animals. So when the animals die, some of the sulfur is released by the decomposition, while others enter into the tissues and microbes. In the sense, sulfur dioxide and other gases are released when the decomposition takes place. So there are several natural resources such as volcanic eruptions, then evaporations of water and breakdown of organic matter in swamps that would release sulfur directly into the atmosphere, in the sense in the form of a gas. So this sulfur falls into onto the earth along with the rain, which is also called as acid rain. So sulfur recycles through the biosphere in several ways. The sulfur, which is found in the organisms, ocean sediments, and soil, rocks, and fossil fuels. The sulfate SO4 minus 2 in the atmosphere, it can be found in the sea spray, forest fires, and dust storms. Sea spray in the sense, like I'm sure, like when you had visited the seashores, you would feel the spray of water which happens as the waves hit the rocks or the shore, and that is what is called as a sea spray. And then forest fire as well as dust storms is another one which would release good amount of sulfur into the environment. During the volcanic eruptions, the hydrogen sulfide and sulfur dioxide are also released in enormous amount, and these are toxic to human beings and many of the life forms. The sulfur which enters into the water bodies or the marine algae, they produce dimethyl sulfide, which is involved in the condensation of water into clouds. So the presence of dimethyl sulfide is also very important in the sulfur cycle. A question comes obviously. All these things, what we talked about till now is the sulfur in the presence of oxygen. Now, what will happen to the sulfur in the absence of oxygen? In the absence of oxygen, the bacteria converts sulfate ions into sulfide ions and they react with metal ions and deposit it as rocks. And human activities also add sulfur dioxide. such as sulfuric acid, sulfates, and many other chemical formats, the human activity adds up to the sulfur released into the nature. Burn sulfur containing coal and oils, then refine sulfur containing petroleum to make gasoline and other heating products. Convert sulfur containing metallic minerals ores, that is copper, lead, and zinc. All these processes would contribute significantly to the sulfur cycle. So if you look at this diagram, two things are there. The red line indicates these are the pathways which are affected by the human beings. The blue lines are the ones which are seen in nature, or they are natural processes. Sulfur, which is present in the soil or rock and fossil fuels, will be converted into sulfur in the ocean by sediments, and then it is converted to dimethyl sulfide by bacteria, gets into the nature, and it gets converted into sulfuric acid and sulfates and deposits as rain. Then the sulfur in the rocks and fossil fuels, by extraction, that is mining and extraction, either smelting or burning or refining fossil fuels, it would lead to the release of sulfur dioxide, which again comes back to the earth in the form of acid rains. So that's how the sulfur cycles in the nature, and the presence of sulfur is an essential factor for all the living organisms. So through this video, you were able to understand the various steps involved in carbon cycle and its importance, carbon cycle and its usefulness, the processes which are taking place in the sulfur cycle in nature, and also the different steps involved in the nitrogen fixation, what mineralization, nitrogen fixation, denitrification. So all those processes we have looked at in the nitrogen cycle. Thank you guys.